Does it take you days or even weeks to recover from a negative review or a bad comment online? If so, this is the podcast for you. Today, I'm talking with Schuyler Ellers from Lord von Schmitt, who talks about putting yourself out there and not listening to the negativity that's online. This has been key to his success and key to how he got on Shark Tank. You're going to love this one. I know I got a lot from it, so enjoy. Hi, Schuyler. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast today.
Hi, Joe. It's good to be here, and I'm excited to talk about what I do and my experiences on this wild, crazy television show, and all of the interest and fun that it's brought me. I really would love to talk about it.
Yeah, I watched your episode and I have to say you have so much more personality than I do. I was so scared to come on the show, but you came out like bigger than life. Is that how you are in real life? Is that who you are?
It's a parody of who I am. I think that we're all terrified to go on the show. I don't think there's anyone who isn't. And if you're not terrified, there might be something wrong with you. I rehearsed a lot. I practiced a lot. I worked on my character. I have a background in theater, and I used all of those tools as well as everything that I do to go bring my performance. To me, it was a performance.
Sure.
And yeah, so, I think that I did parody myself and made it as big as possible to bring my product in front of them.
And that's one of the things, with the show, a lot of people forget to, that are watching, they forget that it is a TV show. And the producers want us to be a little larger than life. They want us to have a little bit of drama or a little bit of excitement, something that makes good TV. And you certainly did. I mean, between the people that came out and, but before we get into that, first of all, You're season 11, episode 22. It's on Hulu, right? So
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about who you are, like your company and stuff, because we'll talk about your episode, but we should tell people what you do, right?
Yes. So my company is Lord von Schmitt. It is a fashion line that creates crochet fashion from repurposed Afghan blankets. So these are blankets that were crocheted in the 70s and 80s. This is an example of one.
Mm-hmm.
They are frequently discarded, sitting in thrift stores and available secondhand in large quantities. And what I do is I cut them up and I reform them into a fashion statement, fashion concept. And that's what I do. I sell mostly crocheted shorts made from these repurposed Afghan blankets.
So my grandmother was a huge crocheter, and we have just boxes of crocheted Afghans that
well, there you go. All over, we have boxes of crocheted Afghans. They're sitting in closets and they're down in the basement, and they are special textiles. In fact, there are heritage textiles, and they don't get out too much.
They don't get out too much. That is a great way of putting it. I'm thinking back to your episode. I mean, you essentially saw these in a thrift shop, and you're like, I can make something from these. They're probably 50 cents for a blanket or a quarter for a blanket at Goodwill or thrift shop.
Sure. I mean, I was doing it myself. So I was trying to create the garment with the yarn in much the same way that these, usually older women were making blankets out of knitting and crochet and yarn. So when I was trying to do it myself, I realized how much time it was taking, how expensive it was, and how hard it was to find the yarn. These are already made, ready to go, and by cutting them apart and repurposing them, I'm able to give them a whole new life.
And the style that you're going for, the vintage feel of the fabrics is actually a plus. I
Yeah,
assume, right?
it's a wild style. Vintage has been back for I don't know how long. But we always need some new, exciting, colorful, bright thing to wear to parties or festivals or to grab attention at some banquet or whatever it is that you're trying to do. You can always activate yourself with some colorful fashion statement. And that's what I think is very exciting about these blankets and very exciting about what I get to do with them.
So Lord von Schmitt, where did where did the name of the company come from? Was it just something that you're just having fun one day and you say, "Oh, I need
Yeah,
a
who
name"?
is Lord von Schmitt? You know, when one of the hardest things you will ever have to do is come up with a name for your weird business. All the obvious names are taken. It's you know, I could have called it Crazy Crochet, but that narrows down what I'm able to do. So something like Lord von Schmidt is it's a made up character, but it's wide open for possibility. I could take that in any different direction. It comes from college when I was a Columbia student. My friend signed me up for some dorm kitchen duty or something. And I was signed up as Lord Schuyler von Schmidt. So out of that came Lord von Schmidt, and I started, you know, signing things that way. Anyways, it was a name I had already been using in an absurd and fun context. And then I was able to, you know, use it as my fashion line because nobody else was using that name. You know, there's a lot of competition in names.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, I think that it's good. I think it evokes the fashion without directly describing it.
So here you have a crazy fun name. You're repurposing Afghans for for clothing, and somehow you end up on the most popular TV show in America. How to take us through that how that happens?
What is the progression from some guy making some crazy thing that lives way out in the middle of nowhere and getting that publicity? So what happened is I started putting these I created the product which was pants and shorts
Mm-hmm.
made out of these blankets. And I put them onto my website, which is powered through Etsy. So I'm an Etsy seller, just like everybody who has an Etsy shop.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it sat for a long time, and then all of a sudden it started getting some attention and some notice, and it started selling. It was a little confusing. And then, you know, what I realized is that people were blogging about it. It got picked up by one blog, then another blog, and then finally by the Bored Panda,
Oh,
which
really?
is a very influential art and culture blog. I'd never even heard of it. And the next thing I knew from there, it was getting picked up by all kinds of blogs, media. It was on e-fashion news. It was on television in Germany. It was it was on web pages in China. It was one of those viral things that, you know, suddenly they picked me up and then everybody picked me up.
So now you have some popularity, and from my understanding, your story is a little bit like mine. Shark Tank actually reached out to you, right, and
Shark
said,
Tank got in touch with me. They asked me if I was interested in applying. And I was like, Shark Tank, Shark Tank. Ooh. And I go, you know, look on my phone. And then I'm like, oh, yes, yes, very interested in applying. So I went through that process, which, you know, as we all know, is a very intense and grueling thing. But I was really focused on it and I really wanted it. And I knew that I had something unique and special to bring to the show.
So you go through that process and you get on. And again, I watched your episode. I think you did a fantastic job. I mean, first of all, your
Thank
personality
you.
came out. And even the sharks, you know, I don't want to divulge too much, but the sharks were actually really kind to you.
Oh,
You
they
know,
were very kind. I was very well treated on there compared to many people that I have seen go on the show and get squished.
right.
And, you know, why did I get that? I think, you know, a flashy pitch is appreciated.
Hmm.
Interaction is appreciated. So some way for them to get involved with the product. I think that my models were very interesting, very attractive. They had a lot of energy. They came from a variety of backgrounds. So I think that the fashion show really got the sharks excited and on these, you know, fun looking people wearing it. And I think that, you know, they were ready. They were ready to hop on my groovy train. They wanted to. They really wanted to.
And that's the impression I got too, is that
Yeah.
I think even Mr. Wonderful said, I want to give you more than you're asking for. You were just still a little young in the business development of your company, is
You know,
kind of what I got from it, right?
I didn't have a lot of sales
Hmm.
to back up everything that I was doing. There is, you know, if you look at it, I have something like in that previous year, I had something like 40,000 in sales,
Right.
which isn't going to impress the sharks. So, you know, maybe one of the questions is, why are there only 40,000 in sales? I've had all this internet publicity. I've had this big boom. One of the reasons was that I abandoned everything and went after Shark Tank. You know, I did do that, and my business does have ebbs and flows, and it's fashion. You know, 1 second you're in, 1 second you're out. All of a sudden you're hot. All of a sudden you're not. It's fashion has its own rules and its own trends.
Yeah, and so so you didn't end up getting a deal, but you got some, in my opinion, some really good advice, and you know, even I'm Mark Cuban saying, "Hey, you're an artist. Go out there and market your product as if you're an artist, not an everyday. You know, charge more money. You deserve more money. Those types of things." Did you take some of that feedback and put it into your
I'm still
plan?
trying to integrate that feedback into what I actually have. I mean, obviously, you know, I tried it.
Hmm.
I tried putting $2,500 up on some, you know, piece that I felt was like one of my coolest ones. I have not received that level yet, but I wouldn't mind. I think that I'm moving towards that. I think I'm at the beginning of that. I think Shark Tank gave me that possibility to eventually do it.
Yeah, I think, of course, you know, one of the reasons that all of us went on the show is just the notoriety that comes with it. You know,
Sure.
so I'm sure that you know, Lord von Schmitt was ranked really high on Google for quite a while after the show, and probably continues to do so as the episodes re-air and things like that.
You know, and so many people saw the show, got in touch, either bought something or even if they didn't buy something, they sent a message saying they saw it, they loved it, they were intrigued. I have a shop in Washington, D.C. The gal who runs it watched the show. She loved it. She got in touch right away. And it took a little while, but now she is representing my fashion line in her store in downtown Washington, D.C. It's called the Omni Collection. It's my first sort of boutique representation. The pricing of my items is not on the level of what Mark Cuban suggested, but we all got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And,
yep.
So far this relationship is going great, and that is directly derived from the show.
So one of the things that you and I had discussed right before we got on the podcast here today was the fact that as entrepreneurs, we put ourselves into our products, and especially you, who is an artist. You're creating a lot of the designs that you're doing. How do you see that for other entrepreneurs? Because again, I know that I do that myself, and I sell something that is, for all intents and purposes, a commodity, not an artistic piece. But
right.
Do you find that is really important to what you're doing?
I found that when I was just starting out, I wanted to create fashion, and then I wanted somebody to wear it, and then I wanted to photograph that person wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my concept. And then I had a good friend that said, I want to see your fashion line be a lot more Lord von Schmitt, with you and the fashion thing. And, and I was like, oh, because I never thought that I could do that. I didn't think, oh, I'm going to be the star of my own fashion line. And then as soon as I decided to try that, I noticed the difference. I think that people look towards someone who's going to be the charismatic carrier of their concept, and they need that face. They need the face of it. They need that to latch onto it. And that person who's willing to dress up and act the fool and look crazy and be wild or whatever it is going to make everybody else feel better about their desire to do the same thing. Is that there's a little fashion model inside of everybody that wants to try that, even if they don't want to be that. Really, there is everybody wants to explore that. That's why everybody's got their selfie stick, and as soon as they go to some monument, they want to take a photo of themselves with it. There is that little bit of that inside all of us, and what I feel that I've been able to do is activate that. By doing it for myself, I'm able to do it for other people, if that makes sense.
It does. And I know people want to buy from people. And that's a big change over the last couple years. Social media has really helped with that. Before it was people wanted to buy from brands, right? Pepsi, Ford, things like that. But totally. now people want to know your story. What is your story? Why do I want to buy from you? And I think that a lot of young entrepreneurs, when I say young, I don't mean age-wise, I just mean new entrepreneurs, right, and small businesses are afraid to put themselves out there. I've heard this over and over again, like, oh, I don't want to talk about my product. I want somebody else to talk about it. But like, no, you have to go out there and put yourself out there. So you said that you have a theater background. I have to imagine that plays a big part into you allowing yourself to put yourself out there. But do you have any tips or anything like that for people they're just afraid of getting in front of the camera, afraid of, writing that blog, afraid of doing the things that they should be doing to get themselves out in front of the public? Do you have any
I
suggestions?
I do. I have a lot of suggestions. I think, one of the first things is, people are always doing these kind of like selfies and, holding the camera and doing all this. You know, Go put the camera down, point it at you, and then start to play with, using the timer, start to play with where you are in the picture space
Hmm.
and try to figure out whatever it is, whatever your product is, how you're going to get in there with the product. In my case, it's pretty easy because it's clothing.
You're
And
wearing it. Yep.
it's clothing that I design on my own body. So, there's always going to be something like that. But whatever it is, I have one of my best friends from college has a very successful sock line. And I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get her personality into the socks, because, your face and socks are not quite in the same thing. So whatever it is, set up the camera and experiment and don't judge the results. Never judge your own image, your own experience with it.
That's so good.
Take what you think is the best out of what you've done and then put it out there. Don't read the comments. Don't listen. Don't pay attention. If someone says that's lame, don't listen to them.
Well, and the other side is social media, everything turns so fast. So you put something out in 2 or 3 days, everybody's forgotten about it and it's time for the next one. So even if somebody says that's lame, and even if it is, who
Even
cares?
if it is, who cares? I mean, the way you become successful in those arenas is to just constantly keep at it. That's what they want to see. If you're constantly posting your material, Instagram and Facebook will elevate your ideas. I personally don't quite have time to do that because I don't really work for those people, but I think that if you're starting, and I think that's a very good way to start.
So again, don't judge yourself.
Don't worry about the quality of what you're putting out. Worry about the quality of your product. And then just let the other thing go. And these are lessons that I've learned and constantly need to remind myself. Don't tighten up with your own self-image. Just put it out there and make it fun, make it funny for people.
So I have to imagine that at some point you told somebody about your idea that you're going to do uh, crochet shorts, and someone said that sounds absolutely insane. Like
Totally.
that sounds like a stupid idea, something like that. I mean,
Totally.
uh, and yet here you are. You made it onto Shark Tank, which is a really really big deal. How did you get those voices out of your head? I mean, did you just have to ignore them, or did you have to fight through some things, or
Well, another very good lesson is don't share what you're thinking. Don't offer that out to everybody. When you have
interesting?
an idea, that's your idea. Keep that idea. Don't tell people. Because everyone will have some reason why that's not going to work. So, and then you'll start to get confused. Show them what you have. See, the thing is, like, you know, when I put my product out originally and it got pages and pages of terrible comments and just totally rude things that people said about me. However, whenever I go out on the street wearing my stuff, people love it. So you have to kind of step back and ignore that. Don't pay attention. How do you get those voices out of your head? I think it's by putting your product out in front of the right audience, and then paying attention when you get good feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the good feedback.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, the internet is just, it's because it's so anonymous, it's so easy to rip people apart. And that's a shame. It really is.
Yeah.
But we do tend to put a lot of weight behind the negative and almost ignore the positive, which is a shame. Because
Yeah.
because we should be doing exactly the to your point. We should be elevating the positive, going, wow, this person is wearing my stuff at this event or whatever the case may be, rather than, oh, here's three people that think it's a terrible idea. Who will never ever wear it. They're not my target audience, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera.
Consider the advantage that a really, really bad set of reviews can give you. Because the more that people love to hate something, the more they secretly love it. So, even if they're saying all this rude stuff, that's your engagement. If you get pages of people, bashing your image and your product and your business, you're doing great. That is the best exposure you can hope for. And that's why, when I would see those pages of comments that were not very nice, I just let it go. Because the minute that I got in there and started commenting along with people, they backed off. They don't want, as long as they don't have to tell you directly,
Mm-hmm.
they can say whatever they want. But the minute they have to get, into an interaction with you, they're not going to go there. So just, let it go. Let it be. Let people say those things. The more they need to say, the better.
And you are, again, your business is living proof that putting yourself out there is a path to success. I mean, it's a necessity to having a successful business. I mean, there's not very many businesses that have started with someone going, I don't want any attention at all.
Right. That's true. That's true. And I think that when people don't want attention or they're afraid of attention, they tend to get caught in a repetitive kind of a, stagnation.
Right.
Whereas you going out there, that's very important.
It is. Well, I have to tell you, I have a renewed feeling of me and my team not doing enough based off of this conversation. Like I feel like a little recharge here, going, hey, what are we doing to get attention? What are we doing to put me and our product out there
Right.
even more than we have in the past? So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I do think that this is important, and I do think that I have learned something special in all of this that I can impart to other people who are struggling, and that really is a huge part of it. Is crafting that persona and making it real and making it, as I said before, a parody of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we can all do it. We don't all have to be anything more than what we already are to get that attention.
That's fantastic. So tell all the listeners where they can, if they want some repurposed Afghans, which, by the way, I absolutely love. I saw your models come out, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. It just, art is the best way of putting it. It brought forth feelings, which is what art is supposed to do. And it's wearable art. So where can they get some of this wearable art that you create?
Well, yeah, now let's talk about the clothing. So, I mean, so I have a website, which I sell at www.lordvaughnschmitt.com is my website. You can get it through Etsy. You can easily find it by putting crochet shorts into Google, and you'll see a ton of images and pictures. I'm very prolific in my own world of crocheted shorts. So there's nobody else that's made as many or doing it in quite the same way. So you'll easily find me. The clothing is extraordinary. It's very comfortable. It can keep you warm in extreme situations. It breathes in ways that other clothing does not breathe. It's great for dancing. It's great for cold weather. It's great for hot weather. It's just a unique concept that I fell into, and as I develop it further, I realize myself how special it is. You know, a prefabricated textile will never have the quality that a vintage piece that was created by someone with that love, never to be a commercial item. You know, nobody was making these Afghans to sell them.
Right.
They were making them out of a strange addiction and, you know, addiction to soap operas and, you know, sitting on some couch with a cigarette. And, you know, it was 1984 and Dialing for Dollars was on. And, you know, and as well, you know, this textile is a form of relaxation. People do it to relieve stress. They do it to give to family members. Mm-hmm. So it didn't start in a factory. It was not contrived to be material for clothing. It was created out of love and, you know, free time and therapy.
And now you are giving it new life, which is fantastic.
And then I give it to other people who can give it new life.
Yep. So lordvonschmitt.com.
Lordvonschmitt.com.
Or look up or Google crochet shorts, right?
Crocheted shorts.
Yep.
And also, if you're in the DC area, it's available at the Omni Collection.
The Omni Collection. Well, Schuyler, I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate the great advice that you've given to me and to the listeners. And if you want to check out Schuyler's episode, check out Hulu or wherever you would watch Shark Tank, season 11, episode 22.
Yeah, thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I love talking about it. It's an amazing experience. If you're trying to get on the show, do everything you can to do it. It's worth it. It's fun. Make it fun, and then be yourself, and probably they won't destroy you.
That is great advice. So thank you again for being a part of everything that we're doing here.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Lessons from the Tank. If you got value from today's podcast, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so you're notified when a new episode is posted. If you'd like to support our podcast, we encourage you to review it and share it with a friend. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.